Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mampolo from Mampolo's Corner. Renew your mindset. The truth is that many people are bitter and they are complaining about this court case. Lots of people are complaining. It's not only the legal practitioners, not only the lawyers they complain. Even normal civilians like us, most of them are complaining. I'm going to play the video, give you. People are bitter and they are insisting that they must go to Supreme Court. They are frustrated with that judgment, according to them. But I don't want to talk too much. Let me begin to play the video of those who are extremely frustrated about this judgment. About this judgment when they give last week here. And some people are weak. They are weak both in spirit. They're both in spirit and in physical with that judgment. They say, I never expected it. For those whenever they see the video. All right, now let's be watching. Watch video.
Judgment has been delivered. So whatever thing that we are saying can never set aside the judgment. But we have the right to review the judgment and express our own opinion. One, nobody is perfect. The only person that is perfect is God. So now, having said that, I have issues, one fundamental issues and several other issues with respect to that judgment. One, out of the 13 witnesses P2B Labour Party fronted, 10 of them were struck out on the grounds that they are supreme witness and they did not file their witness statement on oath along with the petition. So I think that one is something that needs to be questioned. Is another worry of mine. In that election petition is also a part of our jurisprudence. When you said supreme witness, the supreme witness is a reluctant witness who don't want to come to court. But simply because you feel that his evidence is very, very important. You apply to court, the court should compare him. Now, upon granting your application, compelling him to appear, you file your witness statement on oath and allow him to adopt. So striking it out because it was not front-loaded. Are you front-loading something that is not, even the panel has not even started sitting? And at the time you file your papers, the panel has not started sitting. You can't even bring that application to compare them. That is where I believe the Supreme Court should look at it and make some corrections. And secondly, when you are talking about the rules of INEC, the rules of INEC is a law. Once they make the rule, they are expected to abide by their rules. Now, INEC has told the public, even in line with the law, through their spokesperson, Festus Okoye, saying that they are going to comply with the rules by transmitting results electronically from the polling units. And Festus Okoye during the press briefing also cited the laws. Now, why do you now say that it is not a grant for cancelling an election? Now, if it is not a grant for cancelling an election, what is the basis of the basis of that BVAS? Because the purpose of that BVAS has been defeated. And the purpose of that BVAS is to create what we used to see in the previous elections, where somebody will just say in his house and declare results. Now, the court is a court of law, but it cannot cease to be a court of justice. Justice in the sense that you use that opportunity to strengthen the law and make a fundamental comment on it, which will form part of our law. Assuming that you say that is not a grant for nullifying the election, that wouldn't have stopped INEC from directing, say, though it's not a grant for nullifying the election, but INEC should, as a matter of fact, take a private bill or public bill to National Assembly for them to inculcate it so as to help us in our future election, because the essence of going to court is to apply corrective measures. Secondly, when you are talking about issue of drug is a fundamental issue that is not supposed to play politics with. Since you say that since the President Ahmed Bola Tinubu was not convicted as a result of drug, and as a result of that, since he's not convicted, he cannot be disqualified from contesting. It's not enough for his disqualification. Good and fine. It is their decision. But that wouldn't have stopped you as an INEC from condemning, using that opportunity, condemning that issue of drugs, so as to serve as a deterrent to others, saying that it is bad for a leader, for a political leader, it is bad for somebody to get involved in drug. Drug is against the law, is against our religion, is against, condemn it, so that the future generation who are reading it will know that, yes, you condemn it. Now he said, however, having stated that since he was not convicted, we cannot use it to disqualify him. But you have condemned that. That is what we are talking about. So the issue of violence in the election, and they are saying that they did not prove it. Remember that INEC has some evidence which they release to the petitioners, and when the petitioners applied, they gave them blank sheet and certify it as a result. And you did not even make comment about it. You did not even evaluate it. On what basis do you jettison with such an evidence? You should have even made comment on it. When you say that you conducted an election, they ask you, where is the result? You go and bring blank sheet. Which means you did not conduct a result. And this is the result which you used to declare the president winner. So in other words, there is nothing before you. You just wake up, carry mark, and declare somebody winner. So it's very, very unfortunate. I condemn that in that judgment in its entirety, and I pray that the Supreme Court, as a matter of urgency, Supreme Court, because of this country, Supreme Court, because of the future generation, close their eye and correct these anomalies in our election jurisprudence. It will help the country. It will help your future generation. It will help. So if you watch that judgment from the page 1 to the last page, you did not see where the panel even condemn INEC or criticize INEC in their attitude. So in other words, we have now to say that INEC did perfectly well.
Done well.
If the 2023 election, where some tribe in Lagos were stopped from voting, where many people were killed, where houses were burned, you say that it is perfect. You have now given impression that if you are contesting an election, you don't need to spend your money to campaign. What you need to do is this: go, you do everything, use violence, kill it, collect it, run away with it, and pay INEC to declare you winner. If INEC declare you winner, whether you contest election, tell your opponent to go to court. That is the implication.
Go to court.
We need to correct these issues. It will help the country. It will help our jurisprudence, because the future generation that are coming, if we want the day the results were declared, the president was declared winner, Nigeria were like cemetery. Everywhere was calm. The same thing that happened on the 6th of September, when this judgment was given. Can't you witness it that Nigerians are mourning? They are not happy. So we need to give them hope. When you condemn all those issues, even if it's as a result of a mere remark, obita, then we are making progress. That is my take on it.
Oh, no, I don't hear from one of the lawyers that the judgment got frustrated. The judgment don't frustrate him. He still got another person one and one brain to know. Aisha. Now they always call him. Aisha provoke here. Aisha say as long as this government is concerned, the government no. Now illegitimate. Now this one, now that one. Say the law. He said this judgment when they bring so. Aisha frustrating you too. I don't want to talk too much. Let's watch Aisha. Watch the video.
Aisha Yusufu, a human rights campaigner who is being as consistent as the Northern Star in lending her formidable voice to a number of national causes in Nigeria. Good to have you, Aisha Yusufu. It's a joy to have you on the show this morning. So let's start.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure being here.
Good. Let's start from the very beginning. The outcome of the Presidential Election Petitions Tribunal, PEPT, as it is called. The judgment is interesting, and it's divided quite a few Nigerians. So help us understand, because I noticed you were there at the petition tribunal. What's your opinion, what's your thought about the outcome of that presentation? 13 hours plus long, where quite a few people were dozing off and nodding off. I don't know whether they did snore, but I was wondering, what's your thought? You stayed awake throughout.
Oh, yes, I did. Nobody, I don't think I heard any snoring, so that wasn't a part of the whole proceedings. But there were quite a lot of people who did dozed off. It was quite tiring, you know, just sitting down and just listening. I was there to actually listen, and I paid rapt attention to the whole proceedings. And I'll tell you, overall, just listening to the judgment being read out, and it was disappointing, not even about the outcome, but one, in the way that it was being read, two, in the kind of mannerism, in the intonation, in the kind of words that were being read at. And I'll tell you that was my first time of being at a sitting where judgment was being read out in such a manner. And I was expecting, you know, those play of words. I've read certain judgments, like, you know, reading the one of like Lord Denning and all of that and what they've said about words. So that in its own way, just listening to it wasn't as interesting and one would have wanted it to be. But that's by the way. On the whole issue was the fact that the judges, in my own opinion, and I'm a witness because I was directly there on that day, is that the justices sounded more like counsels to the respondents than they did like justices. And I know a lot of people have been saying things like, oh, do you think they will charge you contempt of court and all of that? We have opinions. I must air our opinions. When it came to issue of the judgment, when it's related to the petitioners, you could almost feel the anger. The body language was like angry, the intonation, the words that were being used. Do you think we're going to go to the market and go and get evidence? Things like, oh, you think to come to court and prove that there's an election malpractice or rigging. You think it's like drinking. Is it coffee by an Englishman? They said, you know, all sorts of the way it was being done, almost as if the court was angry that there were actually people who had come to question the election that took place. And in terms of the conversation being had, in terms of the judgment, where you saw, it's almost as if INEC did a sterling job, that there was nothing that INEC had done wrong in all the things that it did. But one other thing that I found most peculiar was when it came to the issue of constitutional interpretation, where when it came to the issue of the forfeiture, the judgment was just read. You know, it was just clipply, as if there was nothing on it, and they just passed over it. But when it came to the 25% of FCT, that's when they would tell us that, look, the Constitution is a living document. You don't just literally, you know, put out the meaning. You don't use literal interpretation to just give an interpretation of it and all of that. And I'm wondering, when it came to the forfeiture, why was that such effort was not also put in place to say, this is not just about now, this is not just about a document, this is about the generation that we have right now and the generation that are yet to be unborn, that it's actually a living document. So that kind of, you know, it's almost like there's a difference when it came to issue that needed to be responded to. And for me, I just felt there should be, people should see that unbiased stance from the justices. Also, to add the fact that there was live coverage of the reading out the judgment. They of course didn't want their faces to be seen. They had warned the media about that the faces shouldn't be shown, only when they were coming in. And then I wonder, why was there no live coverage when it came to the time where there was going to be the trial itself, where evidence would be brought in, so that Nigeria's people, the world, will be able to see what really transpired in the court, as against just seeing the judgment that was read out that day.
All right, then. Thank you so much for setting the tone of the conversation. And I appreciate the fact that you were live in court. So you were able to see things that I guess the rest of the country wasn't able to. But when we talk about the court noting procedural blunders by the petitioner's legal teams, including failure to file witness statements on oath as required, the court also highlighted paragraphs of the petitions that they deemed vague, imprecise, and generic. The court also emphasized the lack of credible evidence presented by the petitioners. Now, are we seeing how these procedural errors impacted the outcome of the case? Some are saying that the justices did a thorough job, to the extent that even some of the senior lawyers representing the opposition parties were chided for their inadequacies to look into their research to build their clients' cases. Are we looking at maybe a situation where the opposition's petition was watery from the beginning? And especially when we look at that in the backdrop of them going to the Supreme Court, they are not allowed to add any more information, any more witnesses. They are taking that same case to the Supreme Court. Would you say that maybe it was a case of the petition being watery from the beginning?
Well, the thing is that for you and I now, because we're not allowed the live proceedings, I wasn't in court all throughout the trial. So I came in, I wasn't in the country, so I was able to attend the one of the judgment. So first of all, that's why they say when you're talking about justice, it must not only be done, but it must also be seen to be done. And one of the things that all of this conversation would have cleared would have been when citizens were making demands that there should be live transmission from the courts during the tribunal sittings. If that had been out, every one of us would have been able to see this watery evidence that were put in, or watery case, or whatever the name that it's called that was put forth. But first of all, that wasn't allowed to happen. And then it is a judgment where it is justices now saying this is what they have arrived at that was allowed to happen. Apart from that is also the fact that there is where they said the way and manner in which INEC had been served in terms of getting the evidence, the materials they were supposed, the counsels to the petitioners were supposed to have access to, that they didn't get it. One of the things that we also have to look at is that the court gives instruction, the court gives its orders to INEC, and then INEC doesn't fulfill it. And at the end of the day, we've seen the court just not doing anything about it and just moving on. And this is not something that is just peculiar to the issue of whether it's INEC being asked to allow petitioners' counsels to have access to certain materials. And I could say we're also where amongst the justices, when they were reading out that judgment, where they said, I think it was Justice Haruna Samani who had read out on the fact that any credible candidate should not rely on INEC for their results and things like that. We've seen time again and again where courts in Nigeria will give order, either the executive or institutions will not obey these orders, and it's almost as if it's business as usual, and they just continue what they're doing without really looking at it at the fact that this is an affront on them. It's one thing for us to talk about technicalities and all of that. But it's another thing for us to say there were people, the people who were on the petitioners' council, there were a lot of sons there. There are people who had, this is not their first time of doing a trial, election petition. And for say that all of them, every one of them, that they didn't file these things the way they're supposed to be filed. I'm not a lawyer. Probably the lawyers will be the ones to answer that. But what was most instructive was the fact that the whole justice seems to be on the side of the respondents more than they were just being neutral. And for me, just being, even in the court, the body language, the words, it's almost as if they came alive whenever it was issue of the petitioners that were being discussed. That's not the way it's supposed to be. And I think it was Lord Denning that said that the law is supposed to be there to protect the weak and not to protect the strong. And we must begin to, and for me, that's why over the years, and this is not my first time, time. And it's not because of the result of what has happened. But the fact is that we need to begin to look at the independence of the judiciary and let us know, do we have, the way we have state capture, do we have also a judicial capture? Do we have, the things that from all of this that we all need to be asking ourselves is that, how do judges get into office? What is the process that bring them in? Is it a transparent process? Is it a process where it's plagued with nepotism and all of that? And at the end of the day, how does it constantly affect the judgment that come out of the courts over time? And we've seen a situation in Nigeria whereby people go on judicial rulings shopping. So somebody will leave Imo State and go to Jigawa State because they want to be able to have judgment in a certain way. Someone will leave Kano State and go to Edo State because they want it in a certain way. What are the things that are leading to all of this? You find a court of appeal in one state, on the same matter, we give a ruling. Another court of appeal in another place, on the same matter, we give a ruling. And so that confidence that Nigerians have in the judiciary, even before the presidential election tribunal started, a lot of people were not interested. A lot of people say, oh, there's nothing that is going to come out of it. We know how this thing. And I remember constantly saying that, look, it's not our business to trust the judiciary. Our business is to overwhelm the judiciary with evidence. And so these are issues that we must ensure that as a nation, justice must be seen. And even in the case of INEC, it's about the processes, it's about the procedure, it's about the things that need to be done. And if these things are not done, we will continue to have a country where people will not have confidence in the government.
Absolutely, absolutely. At that point is where I really want to take it, overwhelm the judiciary with information. And let me take a back step and go back to my own younger days. 1983, the first and only time in my life that I decided I wanted to work for a political party, and that was the Nigeria Advanced Party, NAP, organized and put together by Dr. Tunji Braithwaite, because he captured just the way the obedience were captured. A lot of young people in 1983 were captured by Dr. Tunji Braithwaite because we just believed in his desire to change things. So we joined. And the reason I'm making reference to this was because I was one of those who were polling agents for Nigeria Advanced Party in 1983, and we were able to get copies of all the results and everything and put it together and went to Yaba, coordinated. I was in Ebutemeta, then coordinated and sent all the information. We didn't get a lot of votes. But Peter Obi and the Labour Party seem to have gotten a lot of votes, even by the numbers put together by INEC. You have said a number of times, and I do recall, that you're not really a Labour Party member, but you're an obedient. So help us understand, did the Labour Party fail to gather enough evidence, like you said, which you said was supposed to be overwhelming for the judiciary? Did they fail to gather enough evidence in terms of paper collected across the country to say, these are the papers? We're not even waiting for INEC to present its own on IREV or anywhere else, but we have the documentary evidence. Did it fail?
So the thing about the courts is that we have three arms of government, right? Judiciary, executive, and legislative arm of government. Judiciary is very powerful, and it depends on when you bring your evidence to court. The court will say, oh, this is not admissible in the court, or it doesn't do any of that. Like I said earlier, that was the essence where we needed a live transmission, so that it's not even the justices saying, if there were no evidence that were brought forth, every one of us would have seen that. For me, that was afar from all the proceedings. And you saw where there were people who were transcribing what was happening. They were almost acting as stenographers, transcribing and telling us what was happening in the courts. And we saw the picture. We saw the boxes where they say this exhibit had been entered into court, this evidence, these are materials from these places, this polling unit. And to hear the justices say that, oh, there were no even a single polling unit where there were how did they even put it now? With specific polling units that were mentioned and all of that. It sounds odd. And so for us, reading it, it's listening to them and watching them would have been if we had also seen the live proceedings, live transmission had been allowed, so that people will be able to see these things and say they were not there. That's what for this. The person that would best answer this question will be the counsel to the petitioners, for them to say, did they not bring any of these things out? For I, as a citizen who watch all of those boxes of boxes that were of evidence that were brought in, they even had video evidence that were shown to them, and then it's all for the court to come and say that, oh, there are no evidence that were put before them that they want to use, because at the end of the day, you have a situation whereby there are a bunch of people that are going to just put out the wordings there, as the court pleases, whatever it says at the court pleases. And I look forward to a time where at the court pleases will be replaced by as long as it ensures justice or something in that nature. So I wouldn't be in a position to say, for what I saw as a citizen, and from what came out of the court, from the pictures and the words, the typing that a lot of people put out there, the transcription that a lot of people put out there were evidence that were put before them. Is that the evidence that the court now decide to accept, or it doesn't have to decide? They are the final at that particular place in their courtroom to do what they want to do. And if they don't accept this evidence at the end of the day, there is really nothing you can do.
In one sentence, then, do you think that the evidence was overwhelming in terms of the documentary, the documents, the paper that were presented, that were collated by Labour Party? Do you think it was overwhelmingly clear that the party won? In just 1 or 2 seconds.
I think it was overwhelmingly clear that the party won. Indeed, yes, I believe that. And there were a lot of things that were put before them. What they decide to use, I don't have control over that. Nobody has control over that. They are the ones who have control over what they're going to admit, they are going to allow to be admissible in the court as evidence, and what is not going to be allowed to be admissible in the court as evidence. And that's where transparency comes to play. That's where when people were asking for that live transmission, there's nothing wrong in having put out that live transmission, so that every one of us would have sat here to be able to say, even before the judgment, to say, maybe they didn't put out enough evidence, or no, they had enough evidence, and all of that. And also, like, just to add to it again, I'm talking about transparency now, is the fact that all eyes on the judiciary became something that it became almost as if I don't know, almost a crime. What is wrong with people saying we want to put the judiciary on the spotlight, we want to check the judiciary? And I think this was an opportunity for the Nigerian judiciary to actually welcome the scrutiny that is coming from citizens, because for the first time, citizens now seem to be interested in the things that are happening in it, and it was really important for that. But unfortunately, you saw a situation whereby the justices, there was anger, and I think the female amongst them, I'm sorry, I don't know, I don't have her name, where she was saying that people think they can stay on social media and intimidate them. Nobody is intimidating you. What is being done is that people are saying, let's put an eye, let's scrutinize, let's see what. That's what being an active citizen is all about. That's what occupying your office of the citizen is all about. To put an eye on the different aspect of governance that is happening and follow it through. And at the end of the day, for me, on that day, was also the fact that in that room, getting to the court, everywhere was cordoned off. Armed security agents were all over the place, cordoned off the place. And then when you got inside the courtroom also, there were so many from the executive, even though to me, this government is an illegitimate government. It didn't win the election, and that's my own personal opinion as Aisha Yusufu. And you had the NSA, the chief of staff, the vice president, of course, who should be there because it's also one of the respondents, and all manner of people being there. The national security advisor was in the courtroom, and yet the justices didn't feel intimidated by all of this thing. It's just citizens who are on social media saying, all eyes on the judiciary, don't drop the ball, keep focusing on them, that became the ones that were intimidating. That I found was a bit baffling, honestly.
Right,
guys, when I don't listen to a video of those people one day for straight, they're very, very, very angry. They are not happy with the situation. People are analyzing everything now, both the lawyers and the normal civilian like us, who doesn't know the law. All of us, we are analyzing everything. So People are frustrated. Some people are rejoicing. Some people are mourning. That's how they be. That's how life be. I bring them to you for you to analyze as well. Place your comment down because everybody is tired. Guys, if you love what we're doing here, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, even on TikTok. All of my people, I love guys. Peace out.